The council's judgment. The Grand Assembly Hall stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystal floor. Above, a dome made of living starlight shifted through colors that no human eye could naturally see. Thousands of beings filled the terrace seating that spiraled upward into the heights. Some creatures breathed methane through filters. Others existed as clouds of organized particles. A few were so massive they required their own gravity generators just to keep from crushing the floor beneath them. High Chancellor Vor stood at the center platform, suspended in the air by technology so old that no living being remembered who invented it. His crystalline body refracted the light into rainbow patterns across the assembly. When he spoke, his voice resonated through translation nodes implanted in every delegate's consciousness. Members of the Galactic Council. Vor began, his form pulsing with amber light that signaled formal authority. We gather today for a vote that will define our civilization's future. For 70 years, we have watched a species called humanity spread through our territories like a disease. Today, we cure that disease. A ripple of approval moved through the assembly. The Crethans clicked their mandibles in agreement. The photonic collective brightened with satisfaction. Even the Deepwater Commonwealth, usually so cautious in their judgments, showed signs of support. Vorth activated the central display. Images materialized in the air above the assembly. A human colony ship delivering food to a world the council had sanctioned for disobedience. Human engineers teaching forbidden technologies to species that were supposed to remain dependent on council corporations. Human philosophers spreading ideas about something they called universal rights. Look at what they have done, Vor continued, his voice sharp with accusation. The planet Kellier 9 was sanctioned for refusing to meet their mineral quotas. Starvation was meant to teach them obedience. But humans arrived with supplies and asked for nothing in return. Nothing. They undermined a punishment that had been carefully calculated to maintain order. He switched to another image. A human medical team working in the slums of Tigron Station, treating the workers who processed toxic materials for council industries. These workers were never meant to receive medical care, Vorth explained. Their short lifespans keep labor costs manageable, but humans treated them anyway. They extended lives that were supposed to end. They disrupted economic projections that had been stable for 2,000 years. More images appeared. Humans teaching mathematics to species classified as non-technical. Humans sharing agricultural techniques with farming worlds locked into producing single crops for council markets. Humans sitting in circles with dozens of species, discussing concepts like dignity and choice and freedom. They call this friendship, Vora said, letting contempt drip from the translated word. They call it helping, but we know what it truly is. It is chaos. It is a destruction of systems that have maintained galactic peace for 50,000 years. It is arrogance from a species barely 200 years old. Commander Zyphix of the war fleet stood, her 6 eyes gleaming. I wish to speak in support of the ban. Her scarred exoskeleton bore marks from a dozen campaigns. She was feared across 3 sectors. I have observed human military doctrine. They do not conquer. They do not dominate. This makes them more dangerous than any empire. They inspire. They make others believe that alternatives exist. Belief is a weapon we cannot defend against with fleets. Merchant Prince Collier rose next, his bulbous form quivering with anger. Human traders refuse to honor established pricing cartels. They sell goods at cost. At cost. They say they prefer happy customers to maximum profit. This philosophy is poison to commercial stability. If other species adopt it, the entire economic structure of the council will collapse. Speaker after speaker rose to condemn humanity. The accusations piled up like debris from a shattered world. Humans question authority too often. Humans treated servants like equals. Humans smiled at species that were supposed to inspire fear. Humans asked why when they should have said yes. Humans looked at 10,000 years of tradition and asked if maybe there was a better way. The evidence is overwhelming, Vora declared when speeches ended. Humanity has violated our most sacred principles. They have interfered with the natural order. They have given hope to species that were supposed to remain hopeless. If we do not act now, their infection will spread until the entire council system is undermined. He paused, letting silence fill the enormous chamber. I call for a vote on Resolution 8847. Complete isolation of the human species. All humans must leave council space within 90 standard cycles. After that deadline, any human vessel found in our territory will be destroyed without warning. Any species found harboring humans will face immediate sanctions. Any trade with humanity will be classified as treason. The voting began. Each species registered their decision through their neural link to the council mainframe. The results appeared in real time on displays throughout the chamber. Species after species voted yes. The Cretan Swarms, the Silicon Confederacy, the Methane Breathers Alliance, the Photonic Collective, the Deepwater Commonwealth, the Thermal Dancers, the Gravity Singers. The list grew longer and longer. When the count finished, the results were clear. Of the 973 species present, 891 voted for the ban. Only 34 voted against. 48 abstained. Vortha's crystalline form blazed with triumphant gold light. The resolution passes by overwhelming majority. Humanity is hereby banned from all council space, all trade networks, all diplomatic channels, and all mutual defense agreements. The decree takes effect immediately. Cheers erupted through the chamber, not the wild celebrations of primitive species, but the dignified expressions of satisfaction from advanced civilizations. Light patterns danced. Harmonics resonated. Chemical signals of pleasure filled the air. The council had spoken. Order had been preserved. In a small viewing gallery reserved for observers, Ambassador Sarah Chin watched the vote with an expression of perfect calm. She was a small woman by human standards, barely 160 centimeters tall, wearing a simple gray suit that looked almost like a uniform. Her black hair was pulled back severely. Her face showed no emotion at all. When the vote concluded, she stood smoothly and walked toward the exit. Several delegates noticed her departure. Some expected her to storm out in fury. Others thought she might stop to make a final plea. But she simply walked at a steady pace, her footsteps making no sound on the crystal floor. Vorth saw her leaving. Something about her composure disturbed him, though he could not identify why. He activated his private communication channel to his chief aide, a young crystalline named Morix. Monitor all human communications, Vorth ordered. I want to know how they react to this news. Of course, Chancellor, Moritz replied. Then his voice changed, taking on a note of confusion. Chancellor, there is something unusual in the communication logs. What kind of unusual? There are millions of outgoing messages from human sources. They began approximately 6 hours ago, well before the vote. Vorth felt a chill run through his crystalline matrix. 6 hours before? How did they know the vote would happen today? The messages are not about the vote, Chancellor. They appear to be invitations, coordinates, and a simple message repeated in 847 different languages. Show me. Morix transmitted the message to Vortha's neural interface. The words were simple, almost childlike in their directness. The door is open. Come when you are ready. Humanity waits for you. What door? Vorth demanded. Come where? These coordinates are not in council space. They are not anywhere we have mapped. They point toward the void sectors, the radiation belts, the dead zones that no species can survive in. I do not know, Chancellor, but the messages are still being sent. Thousands per minute, all going outward into the darkness. Vorth stared at the data streams. Something was wrong. Something fundamental was wrong, but he could not identify what. The humans had been banned. They had lost. They should be panicking, begging, threatening, doing something other than sending cryptic messages to empty space. It means nothing, he finally said, forcing confidence into his voice. Probably some desperate attempt to seem important. Humans are always theatrical. Monitor it, but do not be concerned. We have won. But as Vorth returned to his chambers to celebrate, he could not shake the feeling that something significant had just happened, something that he did not understand. 12 hours after the vote, Ambassador Chin released humanity's official response. The message was broadcast on all public channels. She appeared against a simple blue background, standing with her hands folded, her expression as calm as it had been in the council chamber. "The Galactic Council's decree has been received and acknowledged," she said in a voice that betrayed no emotion. "Humanity will comply fully with all requirements. All human citizens will depart council space within the specified time frame. We will remove all our assets, close all our facilities, and sever all formal connections." She paused for exactly 3 seconds. "We thank the Council for the opportunity to participate in galactic civilization. We have learned much during our time here. We wish all Council species well in their future endeavors." The message ended. No accusations, no threats, no pleas for reconsideration, just calm acceptance. Across the Council territories, billions of beings watched the message with satisfaction. The humans had been put in their place. Order had been restored. Everything would return to normal. But in the intelligence divisions, in the military commands, in the commercial networks, a few observant beings noticed something strange. The human response had been too calm, too prepared, too peaceful. And in the darkness beyond council space, in regions marked on every map as uninhabitable and worthless, lights were turning on. Millions of lights, billions of lights. Lights from cities and stations and shipyards that should not exist. Lights from civilization that had been growing in silence for 70 years, while the Council was too busy feeling superior to notice. The Council had banned humanity. They thought they had won. They had no idea that the real story was just beginning, and that the end had already been written decades ago in secret meetings and whispered plans, and the quiet determination of a species that refused to fight but also refused to kneel. The Hidden Empire. The first crack in the Council's victory appeared 17 days after the ban. It came from Trade Station Omega-7, a massive commercial hub floating at the border between Council space and the unmapped regions beyond. Station Master Volume 9 was a Crethan with 40 years of experience managing trade flows. He had seen every kind of merchant, every kind of deal, every kind of desperation that came with economic hardship. So when human traders began packing their goods to leave as ordered, he expected the usual pattern: desperate fire sales, goods sold at 10% of value, merchants begging for extensions for mercy, for one more chance. Instead, something impossible was happening. The human merchants were being calm and methodical. They cataloged every item carefully. They honored every existing contract to the letter. And most disturbing of all, they were not selling their remaining inventory at desperate prices. In fact, they were not selling to council species at all. Buyers were coming to them. Buyers that Volume 9 had never seen before. He watched through the station's security feeds as a massive cargo vessel docked at Bay 47. The ship's design was unlike anything in council databases. Its hull was smooth and dark, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Its engines left no trace signature that council sensors could identify. From the ship emerged beings Volume 9 did not recognize. They walked on 4 legs, had heads crowned with what looked like crystalline antlers, and communicated through pulses of bioluminescent light across their skin. They moved directly to the human merchant quarter and began purchasing everything: food synthesizers, medical equipment, entertainment systems, raw materials. They paid in currency that council banks had never processed, carried in containers that council security could not scan. Volume 9 activated his communication link to Central Command. "This is Station Omega-7. I need immediate identification on unknown species at my location. Sending visual data now." The response took longer than usual. When it came, the voice of Intelligence Officer Serent sounded confused. "Station Master, we have no records matching your visual data. These species are not in any council database." "Where did they come from?" "They came from beyond the mapped territories, from coordinates the humans have been transmitting." A long pause. "That is impossible. Those regions are uninhabitable. Our surveys from 10,000 years ago confirmed this." "Then your surveys were wrong," Volume 9 said flatly, watching another unknown ship dock. "Because I'm looking at 5 different species I have never seen before, and they're all buying goods from humans. And Station Master, they are paying very well, better than council prices." More reports flooded in from other border stations, from mining outposts, from refueling depots. Everywhere humans were preparing to leave, unknown species were arriving to trade. They came in ships that moved faster than council vessels. They spoke languages that translation systems struggled to process. They came from the darkness beyond council maps, from places that were supposed to be empty. High Chancellor Vorth called an emergency meeting of his senior advisors. The council chamber was sealed. No observers were permitted. Only the inner circle of power gathered around the holographic display. "Explain this to me," Vorth demanded, his crystalline form pulsing with angry red light. "Who are these species? Where did they come from? And why are they trading with humans?" Military Commander Zyphix manipulated the holographic controls, bringing up ship tracking data. "We have identified 17 different species in the past week alone. None match any records. Their ships appear to use a form of faster-than-light travel that does not rely on our gate network. Chancellor, their engines are more advanced than ours. Significantly more advanced. How is that possible? We have been developing FTL technology for 50,000 years. I do not know, but the evidence is clear. These ships are faster, more efficient, and completely independent of council infrastructure." Commercial Director Collier added his own disturbing news. "The economic implications are severe. These unknown species are offering prices 30% above council rates for human goods. If this continues, other species may begin demanding similar prices. Our entire economic model depends on control pricing. What about military options?" Vorth asked Zyphix, "Can we intercept these unknown vessels? Can we enforce the ban by force?" Zyphix's 6 eyes dimmed with something that looked like fear. "Chancellor, I would strongly advise against that course of action. We have no intelligence on their military capabilities. Their technology is clearly superior to ours in at least one domain. Engaging them could be catastrophic." Vorth turned to Intelligence Director Sarenth. "Where are the humans going? Track their colony ships. Find out where they're fleeing to." Sarenth activated another display. Red lines appeared, showing the trajectories of human vessels leaving council space. But instead of converging on Earth as expected, the lines spread outward in dozens of different directions. They pointed toward radiation belts, unstable nebulae, dead star systems, regions that council maps marked with warnings and danger symbols. "They are not going to Earth," Sarenth said quietly. "Earth appears to be nearly empty. Our intelligence suggests a current population of perhaps 300 million. 300 million? Earth had 12 billion people just 50 years ago. Where did they go?" "That is what we are trying to determine." Vorth stared at the spreading red lines. Each one pointed into darkness. Each one went somewhere the council had decided long ago was not worth exploring. Send deep space probes along those trajectories. I want to know what is out there. The probes were dispatched within hours. Fast scout vessels equipped with the council's best sensors. They followed the paths of human colony ships into the unmapped regions. What they found shattered every assumption the council had made about humanity. The first probe sent back images from a system called Designation 7741 Theta. Council surveys from 8,000 years ago had marked it as uninhabitable due to high radiation levels from a nearby pulsar. The probe confirmed the radiation was still present. It also confirmed something else. A city, a massive city floating in space, protected by shields that bent the radiation around it like water around a stone. The city was home to approximately 6 million beings. The architecture was distinctly human, but adapted to zero gravity in ways that showed centuries of development. Ships came and went in organized patterns, following traffic lanes that suggested a well-established civilization. The probe's AI estimated the city was at least 60 years old. More probes sent back more impossible images. A colony on a planet with crushing gravity that should have made settlement impossible. The humans had adapted their biology through genetic modification, creating a subspecies that thrive in conditions that would kill baseline humans. Population, 40 million. A network of habitats inside an asteroid belt so dense that navigation should have been suicidal. The humans had mapped every rock, created highways through the chaos, built stations that mined and processed materials with incredible efficiency. Population, 80 million. A world orbiting a red dwarf star, tidally locked so that one side always faced the sun and the other always faced darkness. The humans had built cities in the twilight band between eternal day and eternal night, using the temperature differential to generate unlimited power. Population, 2 billion. Station after station. Colony after colony. Shipyard after shipyard. Each one in a location the Council had dismissed as worthless. Each one thriving with technology that matched or exceeded Council standards. Each one connected to the others through a faster-than-light network that did not use Council gates. Intelligence Director Sarant compiled the data into a comprehensive report. When he presented it to Vorith, his voice was hollow with shock. Chancellor, current estimates place the human population outside Council space at approximately 140 billion individuals. They have been migrating for 70 years in small groups, always with reasonable explanations that we never questioned. They have built a civilization in the darkness that rivals the Council in size and exceeds us in certain technologies. The holographic display showed the true scope of human space. It was not the tiny near Earth that Council maps had always shown. It was a vast network spreading through regions the Council had abandoned or never explored. Hundreds of systems, thousands of stations, billions of lives lived in freedom, far from Council oversight. Earth is not their homeworld anymore, Saren continued. It is a museum, a memorial, a place they keep for history's sake. Their real civilization is out there, in places we never thought to look, because we assumed we knew everything worth knowing. Vorith could not speak. His crystalline form flickered through colors that signaled confusion, fear, and denial. He had dedicated 30 years to warning the Council about humanity. He had finally convinced them to act. And now, he was learning that the action had come 70 years too late. "How did we miss this?" he finally whispered. "How did an entire civilization grow without us noticing?" "Because we were not looking," Saren said simply. "Because every time a human said they were going to visit family in a distant colony, we believed them. Why would we not? They were just humans. We thought them beneath our notice." Commander Zyphix added her own grim assessment. "Chancellor, we did not ban humanity from the galaxy. We ban ourselves from their empire, and I do not think they care." The full catastrophe revealed itself 12 days later, when the Deepwater Commonwealth announced they were leaving Council space. The Commonwealth were aquatic beings who had served the Council for 8,000 years, building the stations and ships that held the Empire together. They were classified as a client species, which meant they could work but never vote, serve but never lead. Their spokesperson floated in a transport tank before an emergency Council session. Her name was Maria, and she spoke with quiet dignity. "The Deepwater Commonwealth formally requests release from all obligations to the Galactic Council. We will honor existing contracts but accept no new ones. We are joining the Human Concordat." Chaos erupted in the chamber. Client species did not leave. The entire Council system depended on them staying in their designated place. "The Human Concordat?" Vorith demanded. "What is that?" "It is what the humans call their civilization. It is not an empire. It is not a hierarchy. It is a voluntary association of free species who choose to cooperate as equals. They have offered us full citizenship, voting rights, and partnership in building their future. The Council has offered us another 8,000 years of servitude. The choice is simple." Maria's tank rotated slowly, her large eyes scanning the assembled delegates. "For 8,000 years, we have built your stations and asked for nothing but fair treatment. For 8,000 years, you have called us clients and treated us as property. The humans spent one afternoon with our representatives and asked what we needed to thrive. They listened to our answer. They made no demands. They simply said that if we chose to join them, we would be welcome." She paused. "We choose them." The Deepwater Commonwealth left that day. Every single member of their species in Council space packed their belongings and departed for human coordinates. The exodus took 30 days and left behind empty shipyards, unfinished stations, and a Council that suddenly realized how dependent they had been on beings they considered inferior. Then the Thermic Collective announced they were leaving. They processed fuel for the Council fleet. Without them, Ships could not fly. Then the Silicon Shapers announced they were leaving. They manufactured computer systems that ran everything from station life support to fleet navigation. Then the Gentle Builders announced they were leaving. They grew the food that fed 1 trillion beings across council space. Species after species made the same choice. They had all been contacted by human representatives years ago, long before the ban. The humans had not recruited them, had not bribed them, had not threatened them. They had simply said, "When you are ready to leave, there's a place for you." The client species had watched. They had seen how humans treated each other. They had heard about human colonies where janitors and scientists shared decision-making equally. They had learned about human philosophy that said every sapient being had inherent worth regardless of productivity. And they had started a dream. The ban on humanity gave them the push they needed. If the council would ban an entire species for sharing too much and caring too much, then the council was not worthy of loyalty. High Chancellor Vorth watched his empire crumble in real time. The economy was collapsing as critical workers vanished. The infrastructure was failing as maintenance species departed. The military was grounded as fuel processors left. Everything the council had built over 50,000 years was coming apart because they had taken for granted the beings they considered beneath notice. He tried to send a message to Ambassador Chun, seeking some kind of negotiation, some way to stop the bleeding. The message was returned with a simple note. Ambassador Chun has retired. Earth maintains no formal diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council. For historical inquiries, please consult the archives. In the darkness beyond council space, in a region marked on old maps as Sector 7741 Omega, a meeting was taking place. Representatives from 70 species sat in a circular chamber with no hierarchy, no raised platforms, no symbols of authority. Humans sat beside Deepwater Commonwealth members, who sat beside Thermic Collective representatives, who sat beside dozens of species that had only recently learned they were allowed to sit as equals. Former Ambassador Chen, now simply Sarah, stood to speak. She was old now, her black hair silver, her face lined with decades of careful planning and patient waiting. "My friend," she said, and meant it, "we have a choice before us. The council is falling apart. Some of you want revenge. Some want to conquer. Some want to return and rule, as the council once ruled us." She looked around the circle, meeting eyes and sensors and light patterns. "I ask you to choose a different path. We did not leave the council to become the council. We left to prove that another way was possible. A way based on cooperation instead of domination, on freedom instead of control, on mutual benefit instead of exploitation." A representative from the Deepwater Commonwealth raised a tentacle. "But what of justice? What of the thousands of years of oppression?" "The best justice," Sarah said softly, "is living well. The best revenge is building something so good that our oppressors become irrelevant. Let the council collapse under the weight of its own cruelty. Let them learn that you cannot build a civilization on the backs of beings you refuse to treat as people. We will not repeat their mistakes. We will build something better." The vote was unanimous. The Human Concordat would offer aid to any species that asked, including council members. But they would not conquer, would not dominate, would not replace one empire with another. They would simply exist as an alternative, and let others choose their own path. Back in council space, High Chancellor Vorth sat alone in his crystal chambers. His empire was dying, and he finally understood why. The council had been so focused on maintaining power that they had forgotten why power mattered. They had become so obsessed with hierarchy that they had forgotten cooperation. They had spent so long looking down on others that they had failed to see what those others were building. The humans had not destroyed the council. The council had destroyed itself by being unworthy of the loyalty it demanded. The humans had simply shown everyone else that there were other options. Vortha's last official act as High Chancellor was to open the council archives to all species, removing the barriers that had kept knowledge locked away as a tool of control. It was a small gesture, but it was all he could think to do. The moment to build a better civilization had passed long ago, decades before anyone realized it was happening. While a small species called humanity had quietly walked away and started building the future the council should have created. That's the end of our story. If this tale of quiet revolution and human determination inspired you, smash that like button and hit subscribe for more HFY content where humanity doesn't just survive, we thrive by being better than our oppressors. Share this with anyone who loves sci-fi with heart. Drop a comment telling me, would you have stayed to fight the council or walked away like humanity did? Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the greatest victory is not destroying your enemies, but making them irrelevant. See you in the next story.